What's going on, guys? We are here for episode 3 of our in-lobby podcast here at Fellowship Church. We are celebrating the release of the Abide Project. Such big news. And our special guest is Pastor Dianna. How are you doing today?
I'm great. After third service, we're excited. We're pumped. We're in our second sermon series, or the second installment of the sermon series. Mm-hmm. And so we're excited to hear how it's impacting our community. Yeah. The album is feeling good. Yeah. Our community is feeling good. So I'm excited.
Awesome. And we are selling merch right now. We got people buying stuff. We're here in the lobby.
Yes.
Everyone's so excited with the album coming out. Pastor Dianna, I'm curious, what is going through your mind right now? As somebody who planted the church along with Pastor Sean 20 years ago, there's an album. What does that mean to you personally?
Well, my husband and I, Pastor Sean and I, we're both musicians. He's a pianist and a gospel singer, and
nice.
I am a classically trained vocalist. And so nice. To have envisioned that we planted this church coming from an experience where there was a choir and all of that in our own church experience, to have something like this realized. We knew it was down in the pipeline of our history. Yeah. We just didn't know when. And we knew it would not be birthed from our own hands, but we knew it would be birthed through our children. So
awesome.
To see that now carried on in the hands of the next generation, that's a dream fulfilled for Fellowship Church. Yeah. To see the next generation take the things of what we learned, where we come out of, and they're walking into. It's just the foundation of what they're carrying now.
So as that being the foundation for so many people, especially this new generation,
yes.
you see just a young demographic on stage leading, and you sprinkle in some of the, how would you say, more mature, right?
Yes.
Performers or singers. With that, where do you see, just Fellowship Church music going after this? We finished the project. A lot of people were asking for new music.
Yes.
And joking around with Mariah earlier, she said, "We just finished the album. Can we just, let it sit for a minute?" But what do you picture as the pastor and somebody who God is already stirring some things up for the future of music here?
Well, I think worship is something that we steward.
Yeah.
And worship, what we feel holistically, it's our life. We give our life to worship.
Yeah.
Our creativity,
right.
our work,
right.
how we parent, to how we go to school, to what we accomplish. All of that is stewarded, and we give it as unto the Lord as worship. Now, with music, which is predominantly how we draw near to God and close to God, we see it strategically through the Word of God, especially through Psalms, especially through the life of King David. He was definitely a psalmist, a writer, a musician, a singer, a vocalist, but he was also in the back area of the stables, so to speak, or in the shepherd area. And that was his arena. Yeah. He was working and singing. So for us, we were stewarding something where we loved our work, but we also loved music. And we wanted to steward that for the next generation. Yeah. So as it was coming from us, mom and dad, we have people within our community, like a Kelly Murdoch, who's been with us for 20 years as well. Wow. She stewarded the worship here at Fellowship Church. And then she gave it to the hands of, the younger generation. And from there, they were able to capture what we've instilled in them. So it's not like older people, younger people. It's like passing the baton of worship, of what biblical worship is. And giving it to the hands of the next generation and having them experience that with us. Yeah. And so as our older team members are carrying with them the responsibility of worship, now they're able to take the values of worship and now run with it through pen to paper, words, lyrics, being a lyricist, being a musician, an instrumentalist, an accompanist, whatever that is. It's now combined into the album of Abide. And Abide is exactly that. It's just biblical worship. Staying in Him.
Love that.
Abiding in him,
Yeah.
staying in the vine, being
Yeah.
close to him, and that's important.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So, one of the things I was talking to somebody about earlier today was just how much this music means to them personally. Pastor Sean today preached about how you handle being in the valley, right? Just
Yes.
that whole theme, and we've all gone through it. And worship can play, or for me personally, has played a huge part when I'm in those valleys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Pastor Sean shared something similar to that. I'm curious, how has worship played in your life when you've been in some of those valleys?
Oh yeah, it was my first introduction to the faith. You know, it was my first introduction of hearing songs that were like you could ride on the words of a song that spoke about your journey in Jesus. So it's the hardship.
Yeah.
So for me,
Yeah.
when I was introduced to my faith in Jesus, when I got saved, I got saved by an old song. These old artists. I don't want to describe them as old, but
Yeah.
it's way back in the day. It was Angela and Veronica Petrucci,
Okay.
and there was a song on the album. And it was "Come to Jesus."
Yeah.
Won't you come to Jesus? Just come to Jesus. He's waiting for you. And
Nice.
those are the
Let's go.
lyrics that just gripped me.
Yes.
And it brought me to my knees before the Lord.
Yeah.
And I gave my life to the Lord. Or the old commission song. You remember? I'm
you're
going way
back.
back.
You're going
BB
back.
and CC Winans.
Oh my gosh, let's go.
Okay.
Let's go, yeah.
Now that is like worship.
Yes.
Now
Yeah.
we're bringing that back into a modern context. And so for me, it was the song that described the valley that I was walking through. You know,
Yeah.
I was raised in a dysfunctional family, been abused since I was the age of 3, over-sexualized kind of kid. And then by the age of 12, all of that stopped. But what do you do when the trauma keeps going in your body?
Right.
So as someone who comes from that context,
Yeah.
I had to, you know, when I came to faith in Jesus at the age of 23, I finally realized, like, you know, worship was my thing. Worship communicated to me the heart of God, but it was also Him communicating to me. So words like the Vonnie Ewing song back in the day, Vonnie Lopez, and she used to attend a UPC church here in the Bay Area, and it was the song that, still I will trust you, still I will follow, still I will listen to your every calling, through the storm rages on, and I can't find my way, still I will trust you, Lord. So it's words like that.
Wow.
Now it's words like in the valley.
Yeah.
You know, in the valley, He's there.
Yeah.
We're pressing through. You know, His word. He's coming to us. And it's all of those lyrics that now is being penned to paper that is telling a whole new generation that God is drawing on them, pulling them in, and pulling them through very tough times. Because if we think of mountaintops,
Right.
if we think from glory to glory, people actually think that we'll never experience a valley.
Yeah.
If we never experience a valley, that means that you're walking on flat ground.
Right. Wow. Let's go. Let's go.
That means nothing in the
Yeah.
faith. If you're preaching that kind of gospel, sit down. You have nothing to share and nothing to say. You
Let's
got nothing
go.
to preach.
Oh, you're preaching right now.
Okay?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're getting me on my
Yeah,
soapbox
somebody
now.
give me a pen. I'm gonna start taking notes.
But
Let's
if
go.
you're walking on flat ground,
Yeah.
when we really look at life, leadership, devotion, obedience,
Yeah.
we throw that around like it's on trend. It's new.
Right.
It's the new hashtag. It's a new thing that we write about. It's a new thing that we preach. I won't know about your obedience until you walk through a valley.
Come on.
That's
Come
when
on.
I see where
Come on.
you're staying in the game
Yeah.
or bailing out.
Yeah.
Whether you're in the boat
Yeah.
or you're jumping ship.
Yeah.
Whether you're in the army or you're going AWOL. Okay, I'm gonna calm down now.
Save for the people in the back. Oh man, well it's interesting because you're sharing these these ideas, and just it's funny because when you listen to the album, it's almost like a soundtrack to what you're describing.
Yes.
Right, and you're describing a lot of some of these old or artists from a previous generation.
I know.
I don't
hate saying old.
Yeah, 'cause I don't want to get off my age either. But
I proudly claim it. Gen X, baby, Gen X.
But the other thing though is like when you listen to the album, it sounds like it's continuing with some of those past artists.
Yes.
Kind of kind of continuing that mission,
Yes.
continuing that ministry.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about where you're at right now after 20 years.
Yes.
What it looks like for someone who may feel that I was just recently talking to my wife about this. Like my focus right now is my second part of life, right?
Yes.
Because I have kids in the picture now, right?
Yes.
I have things that I've built. How are those things going to outlast me? So
Yes.
I'm curious, like after 20 years, what does that look like for you as a pastor of a church, of shepherding this amazing community here,
Yeah.
just releasing the album? So yeah, walk us through that a little bit.
Well, we know like in from 0 through 30, that's all training.
Yeah.
We're growing up. When you're in your 20s, you're making your mistakes. You're just trying new things.
Yeah.
In your 30s, you're learning to become. 40s, you're becoming. 50s, you're in your prime.
Yeah.
So I'm in my prime.
Nice. Say it again.
I'm in my prime.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
50 years old. I'm in my prime. I'm walking into what I've already honed in on.
Right.
And so Abide is not my album. Abide just speaks of the season of the church.
Oh, I love that.
It speaks of now we've already earned our stripes.
Right. Oh.
20 years says something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're no longer
absolutely.
a teenager.
Yeah.
And it communicates so much more about our context as a community. That we're 20 years in, we got skin in the game, we're fully grown, now we've been established in the community. Now the people here, there is a sound that's being developed because when you start speaking the same language when you live together for a very long time.
Wow, that's good.
Like husband and wife, you
That's
start looking
good.
the same, acting
Yeah.
the same, speaking the same.
Yeah.
When you become grandparents, you look more like sister and brother, right? Right?
Yeah.
Great grandparents,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
come on, bro, let's go. But beforehand, you're beginning to know each other. But 20 years being an established local community, it tells the rest of the world they have something to say. And
Yeah.
when you're talking about BBCC Wine and Angela and Veronica, Brooklyn Tabernacle,
Yeah. Oh, wow.
they all have communicated the same thing, which is we value God's voice and word, and therefore what he values, we value. And music is what he values. The enemy wants so much for us to stumble in this realm of being a musician,
Yeah.
worship, songwriting. You have too many people trying to make a name for themselves off of worship albums instead of just keeping the focus on him. That's when we lose the heart of worship.
Let's go.
It's like, I'm not here to be a cross-cultural artist or trying to communicate to a broader audience, so I'm going to make love songs. No. I'm here to do one thing and one thing only, and to tell a whole generation the same thing, which was spoken long time ago before I even showed up to the game,
Yeah.
or I even showed up to the family, which is this, is that it will always be Christ and only Christ, and that is the focus, always. End of the game, period, at the end of the sentence. That's it.
That's
That's
great.
it.
That is great. Man, well, you're preaching a whole other sermon right here.
Sorry.
So no, it's okay. We can start in the next series right now.
It's been my life, and
Yeah.
let me describe it this way.
Absolutely.
When I got saved, I was 23 years old.
Yeah.
It took musicians, meaning Angela and Veronica.
Yeah.
They were at the church that they were ministering at, that I got saved in.
Right.
I was seated in the front row or the first row of the balcony area of this old theater. It's called the Old Campanile Theater. They had ground level seating area, but it was the first row, the middle section from the far left.
Yeah.
I sat in 3 seats, I still remember. I was already on my way to be, a leading vocal artist. I wanted to be an opera singer. I wanted to travel the world. But when God called me, I was already on my way, but when
Right.
God called me, he said, let everything go. what you have now today is not that kind of calling.
Right.
You have people that that want to give their life to Jesus, but they want a contract out of it.
Wow.
They want to go to Nashville and build
Yeah.
a name. They want to go and leave a church and go
Come
to
on
another
now.
church in order to have the leading vocal part.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, yeah.
I was nothing.
Yeah.
Woo.
Man.
I was
That's
nothing.
good.
I left everything.
That's
The
good.
Lord told me to leave everything, leave my career, leave my little connections, leave the circle of influence that I already had,
Yeah. Yeah.
and to be a nobody.
Yeah.
To be a nobody,
Right.
and then start from the ground up, working as a receptionist
Jeez.
in a fitness center.
Yeah. Wow.
That's not even here today.
Wow.
I outlasted that.
Yeah.
You
yeah,
understand what
yeah,
I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But I'm here
Absolutely.
to give my life to the gospel. You lay down your life.
Yeah.
I mean, I have nothing to offer, only my worship, and I will continually offer that worship.
Oh, come on
If
now.
it's through my children, if it's through the local church, if it's through creative arts, if it's through preaching and teaching ministry, I give it my all.
Yeah.
But that was my oath years ago when
Yeah.
I met the Lord.
Yeah.
That's what we're coming back to.
Yeah.
We're laying our lives down once again.
Yeah. That's powerful. Jeez. Pastor Dana, you shared something about, it really spoke volumes about laying your life down. Somebody here, I'm sure, is listening, and they're teetering back and forth. They and culture, unfortunately, does a good job of swaying us, like, oh, it's just one less God, it's one less, biblical thing that you're dropping in your song. What would you say to somebody out there who may be struggling with laying their life down on their career in music, or I feel called to share my gifts for God, but there's something I'm wrestling with inside that's making me think of the contract, making me think of the touring and the bright lights. What would you say to that person?
I would say be obedient to the Lord and cut the ties. It's
Yeah.
like an umbilical cord that keeps feeding into a whole system that is not of the Lord.
Right.
If you're there on the brink and you're thinking like, maybe this is not what I'm cut out to be, this is giving me so much anxiety to try to pump my social media account, to pump my YouTube account, to make sure I have the right connections, to leave one church so I could get close to another church because they have a bumpin',
Jeez.
music program,
Yeah.
and to be actually in front of the pastors. If they notice me, then I can have the leading song. Well, that's not even the heart of God. I question that.
Yeah.
It's like, you may be gifted, but you're certainly underdeveloped. I would say you need to sit down, get alone with God, and leave it at the altar.
Let's
There's
go.
something about the altar. There's something about Abraham leaving with his son, going up the mountain, and he knew he was going to sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he knew he was going to lay it down. That's what calling sounds like.
Wow.
It's like you're ready to lay it down.
Yeah.
And when he says, okay, lay it down. And you're like, well, I thought there was going to be a ram in the thicket. I
Right.
thought there was going to be something there.
Yeah,
No, actually, I'm going to have you walk through it completely. Cut the ties on your calling, cut the ties on what you think your calling is.
Yeah.
I cut everything. I walked away from everything.
Yeah.
You know who did the same thing? Bonhoeffer, Martin Luther, the reformer.
There we
They
go.
left everything.
Yeah.
And we're living in a day and age where we're not telling the people, even the worshipers, the people that feel like they have a calling to worship ministry,
Yeah.
that this is what calling looks like. And here at FC, this is what we preach. This is what we teach. It's like, if you're not willing to lay it down,
Yeah.
then you're not willing
There
to
you go.
serve the greater masses of FC.
Amen to that.
Amen. High
Leave-
five. High five.
Leave it at the altar. There you go. Last question.
Yes, sir.
I know we're getting ready to start another service right now.
Yeah, no worries.
You're a student. What I call a student of the game, right? Like, you're a student when it comes to music. You're naming artists that are like, oh my gosh, I remember that. I was in Sunday school. I remember,
Yes.
If someone would look at your Spotify playlist or your choosing platform, what's on your playlist right now?
Oh, I still go old school.
Yeah.
I'm like, some of this bubblegum kind of worship. I'm like, Give me Mary Alessi,
Let's
Martha
go.
Munizzi.
Come on, let's go.
I'm talking about, I still even go old school. I know, like Brooklyn Tabernacle.
Oh, right.
I still do, let's see who else that's on my list. Of course, FC Music.
There you go. Of course.
But of course.
Of course, yeah.
I have Sarah Groves. If you want to do a little, indie type.
Yeah.
But that's some of the music that I got saved to that developed my worship life.
Yeah.
CeCe Winans,
Yeah.
some of her older stuff. Her newer stuff is great, but her older stuff is amazing still. That's what I listen to.
And isn't it funny how we always go back to the stuff that we, for me personally, when God really worked on me, like I still go back to Delirious. I still go back I still go back to that stuff, right?
Yes.
And it reminds me of falling in love with God for the first time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you remember Crystal Lewis?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right.
Sure. Yeah.
People get ready.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm going to start singing. Nobody wants to hear me sing. So, well, Pastor Dianna, thank you so much. This was an honor and a pleasure. Everyone.
He's like, okay, we got to cut it down. We could talk all day.
Part 2 coming soon to this interview specifically. But thank you for joining us. We'll see you for the next episode. Thank you once again.
Oh, thank you.
All right.